In this video we're going to have a look at multiplying fractions. To multiply two fractions, you simply times the top two numbers to find your numerator and the bottom two numbers to find your denominator. Let's have a look at some examples. In my first question, I'm asked to work out 4/7 multiplied by 1/3. To work this out, I need to multiply my top two numbers, and that gives me 4 times 1 on the top. I need to multiply the bottom two numbers. That's 7 times 3, which needs to go on the bottom. 4 times 1 on the top gives me 4, and 7 times 3 gives me 21 on the bottom, and that means my final answer is 4/21. My second example asked me to work out 3/4 times by 5/11. Using the same process, I need to start off by timesing the top two numbers. That gives me 3 times 5 on the top of my fraction. And multiplying the bottom two numbers gives me 4 times 11 on the bottom. Working these calculations out gives me 15 on the top, that's 3 times 5, and 44 on the bottom, which is 4 times 11, meaning my final answer is 15/44. My final two examples are a little bit more difficult because they need simplifying at the very end. In my next example, I'm going to show you how you can simplify your answer, and in my last question, I'm going to show you a trick to make multiplying fractions a little bit easier some of the time. My third example asked me to work out 3/4 times by 2/5. So as with before, I'm going to times the top two numbers, that's 3 times 2. This needs to go on the top of my fraction. And on the bottom, we've got 4 times 5. Three times 2 on the top gives me 6, and 4 times 5 on the bottom gives me 20. Now, 6/20 isn't in its simplest form. We can divide the top and the bottom by 2. Doing this gives me 6 divided by 2, which is 3 on the top, and 20 divided by 2, which is 10 on the bottom. So my final answer is 3/10 in its simplest form. In my final question, I'm asked to work out 5/7 times by 2/5. Now, I could go through the same process of multiplying the top and multiplying the bottom, and at the end simplify my answer, and that would work perfectly fine. However, there is a shortcut to make answering this question a little bit easier. Because there's a 5 that appears both on the top and the bottom of our fraction, we can actually cancel these out. So a 5 from the top and a 5 from the bottom. Now, it doesn't matter that the 5s are on different fractions, and it works for any number as long as they're the same. Just one needs to be on the top and the other needs to be on the bottom. Because we've cancelled the 5s out, that means I'm left with 2 on the top and 7 on the bottom. So my final answer is 2/7, and that is in its simplest form.